Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending 16th of March 2024. A royal PR slip with a photo clipped and snipped. Anderson jumps ship and shoots from the hip and gives the media some lip, having lost the Tory whip, giving Rishi more jip as Tories look like being whipping up unrest with the party leadership. Rishi also tight-lipped, but then guilt-tripped into calling out a donor who let his true feelings rip. Putin displays his iron grip in a massive ego trip. Still no peace on the Gaza Strip. A family photo meant to ease a concerned nation ended up causing Mother's Day consternation. Kate held up her hands and apologised when people clocked that the pic had been compromised. The image of her and her kids was intended to have speculation about her health ended. It was the first sight of her since her hospital op, but then she'd gone and spoilt it with Photoshop. The Princess of Wales thought no one will notice, but news agencies did and issued a kill notice. Sunak ruled out a vote on the 2nd of May, so the election will fall on an autumn's day. A week's a long time in politics, so what's half a year? Much too short for Rishi, probably too long for Sir Keir. Tories, with an election they want calling off, are creaking like an old crock with bits falling off. Last week even former PM Theresa May fell off the Tory banger and called it a day, joining a long list of Conservatives who say we're losing the election, we're losing our way. And on Friday, James Heapy heaped on Rishi more woe. The Armed Forces Minister announced he wants to go. But on Monday the headlines were all about an MP who the Tories had already kicked out. It had been trailed for well over a week, ever since he upset London Mayor Sadiq. Lee Anderson, Ashfield's former Tory MP, had had the whip removed unceremoniously. A supporter of Boris's premiership, Anderson has chosen to completely jump ship. Indulging in his own version of Partygate, he joins a party and quits before it's too late, leaving when the party's no more to his taste, which is usually just prior to him being chased. An ever-changing political mutation in a gradual left-to-right migration. He'd have us believe he's just like Johnson, a conviction politician who lives by his conscience. While many may balk at that view of them both, apologists still lurk within the undergrowth. Richard Tice, for one, seemed to be a happy fella, welcoming Lee under the Reform umbrella. Lee once called Tice a pound-shot Nigel Farage, and on Monday the press launched a barrage. Anderson generally gave the media short shrift when asked about his past and his left-to-right drift. Politics can be a brutal and cynical game. Selective recall is useful for personal gain. Lee said when, in a past world that he used to inhabit, that Tice was Reform's answer to Diane Abbott. Obviously a comment to demonstrate he was no fan of either Reform UK's leader or Diane. And this week Diane featured in another news story involving the biggest backer of the Tories. Britain's first ever black female MP seemed to arouse irrational enmity. The donor in question, by the name of Frank Hester, finds things about Abbott that make him detest her. In fact, so much so that he wanted Di dead. She should be shot, he's alleged to have said. Or that just seeing her triggers within him a general hatred towards all black women. And so for a day or two the matter festered as Tories refused to condemn Mr. Hester. Then a member of the cabinet finally broke ranks, Kemi Badenoch gave her frank opinion of Frank. By saying his comments were racist and appalling, Kemi ended the Tory bluff and stonewalling. Sunak soon agreed that Hester's words were wrong, but the PM's position looked even less strong. The delay had made him appear wishy-washy, causing more unrest amongst the Tory posse. And to add to his party's unpopularity, Frank's envelope will not be passed on to charity. And it seems, despite all week being pestered, they don't intend to hand the dosh back to Hester. 10 million quid is obviously a useful sum when you're trying to reverse the election outcome. Friday in Russia saw the start of 3 days when people could vote but not have their say. Democracy indeed, the West gave a wry smile, with all opponents dead, in jail or in exile. Everyone already knew the winner by a mile, a winner who should be in The Hague on trial. Those Russians with a hopeful vision for their nation damaged ballot boxes and polling stations, despite knowing that showing such audacious manners would result in time spent in a Slavic slammer. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, Russia is still the aggressor, with Friday's brutal raid on the port of Odessa. And brutality continues in the Gaza Strip as Netanyahu refuses to loosen his grip. All hopes of a ceasefire for Ramadan were dashed when negotiations overran. Guterres asked both sides to do all they can as the Muslim holy month on Monday began. And finally, the M25, junctions 11 to 10, for the weekend became an 8-lane LTN, a place of rare quiet and sanctuary, as a bridge was raised and replaced with a gantry. The motorway's first shutdown since its inception provided tranquility for a 5-mile section and enormous nearby rerouting congestion.